gurus are all here, and Professor Devi Singh has forgotten that I also have to have lunch. So, so in, all right. So I just want to tell you that, first and foremost, my understanding of leadership has been just this, that leaders are never groomed in classrooms. They are groomed in the field of practice. And when I looked at this name called Arjuna, it always fascinated me. And I went around the country in about 100 K-12 schools to figure out how many boys were named Arjun by their parents. And I figured out in 2012 the number one name for boys in India was Arjun. And I was asking why. Why not Shah Rukh? Why not Sachin? Why not some other esoteric name, contemporary name? Why Arjun? And the answer was that he had some qualities. They are called Gunas. The word Guna means quality. It can also mean multiplier. Okay, so something that multiplies across time and space has some relevance. So I'm just going to bring to you on the edge of lunch something that could be appetizing if you choose to listen. All right. The first and foremost thought I had when I was studying the subject is that there are two dimensions of grooming leaders. One is either you are somebody who takes decisions or somebody who influences decisions. When students come into the management school, they obviously don't come to get skills. 2 years is too short a period, Subir, to give them any skill of any. If they're born with it, leaders can't be made if they're not born with those skills in the first place. So there is this one aspect of human capacity which is called practice, the ability to take decisions. And the other aspect is to be ability to influence decisions. You could be a Krishna or an Arjun. You could be a Chandragupta, but you also need a Chanakya. You could be an Alexander, but you need an Aristotle. The point I'm trying to make is, please don't get students in a mold just because there are some skills available, that market demands some skills on the fringe. Great schools are never driven by the market, they drive markets. And if we are going to be driven by markets and every damn thing, then the whole notion of Gurukula is lost, because the whole idea of Gurukul is the master and the apprentice come together, where the master is not measuring performance as we do in business schools. The master is engaging potential, and there's a difference between the two. If 80% of your time goes in measuring performance, then how are you engaging potential? And therefore, I realized that the coaches in the schools I went, the coaches were the most popular teachers. They were running tuition classes. And so I'm wondering why. And then I realized why the teachers were on the opposite side of the students, professors and teachers. Coaches were on the same side. Coaches are seeming to tell you that it doesn't matter who you are, but I'll grow you from wherever you are, whatever you're capable of. And that made the huge difference. And that made those students recall those teachers. So I would like to say, if you look at Arjuna as a reference point, the thing that grew him is not just his expertise. The Gurukul is a place where you had expertise that could be engaged, but you had the capacity to reflect on what you are, what your expertise is. The entire 700 verses of the Gita is not around what Arjuna should do. It's about who Arjuna is. All right? When that is clear, I think when that is clear, half the problem of employability and employment are sorted out. So as somebody who is a practitioner will not get into influence mode or look for a job in McKinsey. Somebody who is a McKinsey character will not be CEO of a company. But that clarity does not come because we don't give students, we don't give people who are grooming the ability to reflect on their own experiences. I just give you one example from Arjuna's life. He's eating his dinner, and all of a sudden the lamp blows out, and he sees that he can bring food from the plate to his mouth without the aid of any light. He says, if I can eat without the aid of light, why can't I shoot in the dark? And he practices shooting in the dark, and he realizes, as today's scientists would realize, that you don't need to see an object to be able to hit it. The vibrations of the object can be heard too. So your ability to hear allows you to hit the object. And the quality that makes Arjuna and Arjuna is not his Gandiva, but his Ekagrata. And Ekagrata is a function of awareness. Ekagrata is not something that you do. Ekagrata is something that you are. You have to discover when you are Ekagra. If Tendulkar says, when my bat hits the ball, and the click of it means that all my endorsements and everything else will come true when the bat hits the middle of the ball, that's Ekagrata. all right? And if we don't give ekagrata as a content, so this is something that is very, very important. So what I'm trying to argue is simply this, that can you create a reflective practice? You know, these are not too difficult things to understand. I'll just end with two examples because lunch is near. First example, Debashish Sanyal rightly mentioned design is a very important critical issue. I went to a design firm in Pune called Elephant Design, and I talked to a guy who was actually applying some of the design principles in business schools. And he said, I sent out batches of students to a particular city to study the city's landscape. And I said, whatever you see, whatever you observe, whatever touches your heart, please draw those in sketches. Don't take pictures with your cell phones. Doesn't matter what your drawing skills are, just do a sketch of what you see, what stands out for you. And when a student actually tries to draw something that catches his or her attention, there's a whole lot of empathy with the subject or the object of observation. And that empathy gives you a sense and a feel and an empathy, and a connect with what you're observing. This is a fundamental skill, but it is also a function of reflective capacity. You wouldn't get that. And my final example, I'm not going to stretch too far. I'm not going to talk about Arjuna. You have to buy the book and figure out why I wrote it. My final thing is, there's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, and this conversation is something very interesting. At the end, when Arjuna is about to die, he sees Krishna all of a sudden, and he says, is it a vision or is it reality? Because I just cremated the man. And he asked Krishna this question, are you man or are you God? What are you? He said, I'm really neither. I'm just awake. When you wake up, there's literally no difference between you and me. So all I'm asking you to consider is this: wakefulness is a very critical skill. You are awakened to your own weaknesses. You're awakened to your own strengths. You're awakened to your skill sets. Only in a school, you separate performance capability from evaluation of it. Can you imagine, can we learn walking? If somebody evaluates us for walking, we learn to walk by walking. The feedback loop is within us. We learn to dance by dancing. We learn to strain our hands, feet by straining our feet. So we learn through this feedback loop is already embedded in the human system, just that the reflective capacity doesn't have a chance to flourish. My final example, as I promised you, is from a station in Ahmedabad. I see a guy who's polishing a shoe shine guy. And as he's polishing a shoe, which is a very dreary job, as you would know, every day he's doing the same thing, but he has a copy of the Times of India in his hand. And this guy whose shoe he polishes, he gives this Times of India to this guy. And the fellow is reading the Times of India where his shoe is being polished. And so the observer goes to the boy after the money is exchanged and the shining is over. He says, why did you buy the Times of India? Why did you give it to him? He said, sir, उनके तरफ जाकर देखते हैं तो लगता है काफ़ी बोर्ड हो जाता है, तो उनको भी तो कुछ करना चाहिए जबकि मैं उनका जूता साफ कर रहा हूँ. And when he has access to the Times of India, then he doesn't feel bored. Like, I feel bored. I don't want to impose that on somebody else. All right. Now you imagine, if you want to read the Gita and you figured out what Nishkam Karma is or what Karma Yoga is, this is probably what it is, where your active and your reflective capabilities come together, when your intelligence truly become contextual. That's where leaders are grown. Thank you so much. Let's over to lunch.